Hey guys, so welcome to today's video, welcome back to the channel. So please forgive me, both children are in here. Kai is here, obviously, you can see him, he's beautiful. Jackson's right here, he's in his little vibrating chair. So forgive me if you can hear Mickey Mouse, but I have some videos I have to film today, so I wanted to go ahead and get this done. Of course, we're going to be talking about a makeup and mystery video. I'm so excited. I like doing these videos. I think that true crime is just so intriguing and interesting, and I like the chance to be able to do something like where I get to do my makeup and talk to you guys about a case that's been on my head, on my mind. Yes, I picked that up from Bailey Sarian. This series is actually very inspired by Bailey Sarian. So, yeah, today is going to be episode 3 of my first season. Of course, I have a couple of videos that I'm, like, series that I'm doing on my channel right now, so I kind of always felt like I was kind of, putting a little too much on my plate, but I'm okay with it because I really wanted to revive this series and do a good thing with it. I'm not always going to be doing, like, filming these, so I am going to take breaks in between seasons, just so you guys know. So today we are going to be talking about JonBenet Ramsey, which is an unsolved murder. I'm sure a lot of people know about JonBenet Ramsey. This is a case I almost know most of it by heart because it's so intriguing to me, and it's just so sad, and it's really just so super duper sad. I mean, this little girl, beautiful little girl, lost her life, and no matter how you look at it, whether with all the theories, like, no matter how you look at it, like, it's just sad that a child lost their life. So, JonBenet Ramsey was 6 years old when she was murdered, and she got her name because she's the daughter of Patsy Ramsey and John Ramsey, and John's middle name is Bennett, and they kind of put it together and made a French twist on it and got JonBenet, which is really, really cool. I actually really like that. I think that that's really cool that they did that. And this family was rich. Like, this family was rich. So, I believe Patsy was a stay-at-home mom. Please correct me if I'm wrong. John, I believe, made all the money. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe JonBenet has a brother named Bert, but I believe there's a 3 or 4 year age gap. I think it's 3, but I'm not entirely sure. So JonBenet did pageants. She was a pageant kid, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. The thing that I think a lot of people have problems with pageant kids is the fact that these kids are dressed in, you know, these crazy exaggerated outfits, and they're wearing makeup, and they're sometimes kind of like singing very provocatively, which is really concerning to a lot of people, and a lot of reasons why I think a lot of people don't actually do stuff like that anymore, which you can't blame them. So, the story goes is it was the night before Christmas, is I think when she actually was killed, was the night before Christmas. Hell of a Christmas. So, they had gone to, like, a Christmas party the night before, and they said that JonBenet had fallen asleep there, so they carried her home and put her to bed. But when Patsy woke up the next morning and she couldn't find JonBenet, and she found, like, she obviously started, like, frantically looking around, and she found this ransom note, and the ransom note is really, really weird. So that's when she called 911, and the 911 operator, I believe his name was Kimberly, I don't know her last name. But there's actually, like, you can go on YouTube and find the 911 call if you are curious about it. So you can actually go and hear it. And it's really weird. I'm just gonna say that it's kind of strange. So when police got there, they think they're dealing with a kidnapping. So they look over the ransom note, and the ransom note, again, it's weird because the ransom people are asking for $118,000, which was the exact number of John's bonus that year, which was kind of crazy about how they could have known that. So the police kind of like thought maybe it would be somebody from John, like connected to John's work. However, after a more thorough search of the house, they did end up finding JonBenet's body in the basement. The problem that the police have with this whole case is the fact that the Ramseys had friends over. So, and they had friends looking for JonBenet. And it was John who found JonBenet himself, and he wrapped her in a blanket and brought her up there. So, number one, you have case contamination right there, which is really one of the biggest problems I feel with this case, is case contamination.
All right. Bella's asleep. Good singing, everybody. Oh, my. Bella's gone. Come on. Let's go find him.
It's much better. Way better.
Okay. Oh, I think I know what's happening.
So, of course, once the discovery of JonBenet's body is made, they switch it from a possible kidnapping to a homicide. And like I said, with the ransom, they went over the ransom again, and I remember, like, when you watch interviews of people, like, talking about the case, they say that the ransom was weird because it, like, looked like nobody, like, they didn't know what they were doing, and it had, like, quotes from other movies with ransoms in it, which is weird. It looked like the person who wrote the ransom note didn't know what they were doing. And forensically, the ransom note it was written on came from a notepad inside of the Ramsey's house, which is another point for like debate, is because why would somebody break into your house, try to kidnap your child, write a ransom note, and then kill your child and then leave? And then it's just really crazy because, like, how did they know about the bonus? Like, how'd they know the number? And another thing is with the ransom note is, if you go back, they said that the ransom note was weird in the aspect of it started out with some very sloppy handwriting, and then throughout half of it, it ended up changing. Like, maybe somebody was trying to alter their handwriting. So, of course, they switched to the homicide investigation, and number one is going to be the parents, just because it's fishy, as is.
That guy read it all the time. We used the for Bella.
I do want to say that the Ramseys weren't the target of the investigation from the get-go. They did have other people that they were looking into for the investigation. Like, there was there was this guy, I don't know his name, that they thought could have did it at the party, and it was proven that he couldn't possibly do it because he had like surgery or something. And then, of course, with JonBenet being a pageant girl, it could have been a pedophile. They were looking into the fact that it could have been a pedophile in the pageant scene. How you know Mickey comes right back on. Mommy always leaves it on for you. So there was that. Another thing with the ransom note, that it was really, really strange that the Ramseys were like rich. So, and it was like kind of like well known that they were rich. So it was just like really weird for them to ask for a ransom and just ask for $100,000. So it was really weird in the ransom note, at least to the police, in that aspect. Hi, baby. I cannot imagine going through what they went through, though. I'm just going to say that now. Because no matter what happened, they did lose a child. And I could not imagine losing one of my kids. Thank you, Kai. I appreciate the love. This is not my kind of highlight, I'm not gonna lie, but I've just been rocking it. Rocking different looks lately. But getting back to the story, so I find it amazing that they did have the ransom letter. Good job, Kai. He's kissing Jackson. They did have the ransom letter looked at, and forensically, it was said to match Patty's handwriting, which is crazy because I guess Patty had like unique ways of doing like Q's and T's, and that was in the letter. So, I mean, that's crazy in its own right and cause for concern. But upon further inspection of JonBenet's body, when they did like an autopsy, they found that she was hit over the head, which caused her to go unconscious, and then she was strangled. She died from asphyxiation. I can't talk. I know my words. Asphyxiation. Blech. Strangulation. How about that? So she died from strangulation, and the strangulation was said to have happened from anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours after the initial strike on the back of her head. Which is crazy when you think about it. When you think about the theory that they have. It's really crazy. So, upon further inspection of the body, they also found that JonBenet had undigested pineapple in her system. Which, for there to be undigested pineapple in her system, she would have had to have consumed it pretty recently. Which, if you remember early in the story, the Ramseys said that she had fallen asleep at the neighbor's house, and they could carry her back. And another thing that I find weird is that they did find unknown DNA in her underwear and under her fingernails, which, if you look into true crime, then this is something that you would really, really know, is the fact that typically when you have a murder like this, the victim fights their attacker and they kind of claw them. So that is kind of what seems to have happened here. And the big important thing to note is that the DNA underneath JonBenet's fingernails and in her underwear did not match anybody in the Ramsey household. It didn't match Burke, it didn't match John, and it didn't match Patsy. So that is something to remember. Let's go, Jackson. Hi. So, the pineapple. They had found a bowl of pineapple on the kitchen table, or on the kitchen counter, that had Patsy and Burke's, like, fingerprints and I guess DNA on it, but not JonBenet. So, that is question number one, is how did JonBenet's DNA not get on it, and then it be in her system. Of course, there were a few people that ended up confessing. Like, there was a guy named John Mark Carr that ended up confessing. But I guess, like, he was obsessed with the case because they were actually able to prove he didn't do it. And the DA had actually brought forth to the grand jury the evidence that they had. And the grand jury, which is how you get a arrest warrant, is the grand jury indicts you. Indicted the Ramseys and said that they should be put on trial. I believe it was for child endangerment is what it was. It wasn't for the murder of JonBenet. But the grand jury said that the DA did have enough evidence to indict the parents. However, the DA at the time decided not to indict the parents, which I don't really know why they decided not to indict the parents. That's a story for another day, I'm gonna guess. So, and very shortly into the crime, the Ramseys stopped working with the police, which I don't know about you guys, but I would not stop working with the police, cooperating with the police when it came to my child's murder. I wouldn't do it. I would want to know who did it, unless I knew and I was protecting somebody. But the strange thing is that the Ramseys were doing interviews on television and stuff like this. This was a really, really big case. It really captivated the United States and the paparazzi. And this case is even still big to this day. Like, I'll be at the store picking up, like, groceries for the kids, and I will literally see a magazine that has something to do with JonBenet on it and state, like, oh, 25 years later, 30 years later, it's solved. Finally solved. I don't think it's ever gonna get solved. And another thing with the DA is that the DA has officially ruled out the Ramseys, which earned a lot of criticism from a lot of people, because it was said, well, what if it turns out that they did it? Then you ruled them out. And I actually believe I am with the majority of people who are kind of a little upset with them getting ruled out, because it does seem like if they didn't do it, they have an idea of who did and what happened. So Patsy Ramsey actually passed away due to ovarian cancer, I believe. And she is buried next to JonBenet. John Ramsey is remarried, I believe. And Burke Ramsey did an interview on Dr. Phil a few years ago. It's really intriguing. You should really check it out if you're interested in this case and you haven't seen it. It's really intriguing. So, now that we're kind of like caught up on it, the conspiracy theory that I want to talk about, and it's actually the one that I believe, and I've even talked to my parents about it, and my parents actually lived this case, like they lived through this case, like they remember it. Believe the same way that I believe. And I believe that Burke Ramsey had something to do with it. And I think that his Dr. Phil interview just kind of solidifies it even more, that he had something to do with it. And my mother and I were talking about it because I asked her why they never put me in pageants, because I'm my parents' only daughter. I'm my mom's only daughter. So I always asked her, like, you tried so hard to have a girl. Why did you not do all the girl stuff with me? And this case was actually one of the reasons that she didn't put me in pageants, was because she was afraid, because there was always that thought in the back of their head of, well, if JonBenet wasn't killed by a pedophile, somebody in the pageant scene could be killed by a pedophile. Thank you, Kai. And I kind of feel that same way. I really do. I don't think that JonBenet was killed by a pedophile. I think that JonBenet was killed by her brother, Burke. And I did grow up with two brothers, so I kind of can sympathize in a way with it, because So JonBenet was in pageants and she was getting everybody, like her parents' attention. So Burke, I think, kind of felt maybe left out and maybe a little jealous. And there is actual stories that Burke was a violent child going around. Like, there are stories about him being a very violent child. So if he's jealous of JonBenet and he's violent, and let's remember that bowl of pineapple that just had Patsy and Burke's DNA fingerprints, I don't know, on it. Going back to that, maybe JonBenet woke up because she was super excited. Maybe JonBenet Ramsey woke up because she was super excited about Christmas because she was 6 years old. Remember that? I mean, my niece gets excited about Christmas and she's 5, but she got excited about Christmas last year when she was 4, is my point I'm trying to make. So, she could have been excited, woke up, because I'm gonna guess that she went to bed, she fell asleep pretty early at the party. Saw that her mom and brother were eating pineapple, and pineapple was said to be her favorite meal, like dessert. What if she reached in, grabbed the pineapple from the bowl, and ate it, which would cause her to not have put her DNA on the bowl because she reached inside of it, and Burke got mad and went and got a heavy-duty flashlight and hit her upside the head with it. Because the police did a search of the house, and they did after they found her body, and they did determine that the flashlight was the most probable cause of what caused the head injury on JonBenet Ramsey. And nobody claimed it. Like, nobody would claim it either. Which, duh. But of course, Patsy is gonna wake John up, and they're gonna say, you know, I lost one child, I don't want to lose another. And then they staged the strangulation and to save Burke, and they staged everything, the ransom note and everything, which would explain why it was written on their notepad. It would explain why it matches Patty's handwriting. I'm gonna declutter this mascara. And apparently the 911 operator who took the 911 call came forward and said that there is other voices. Like, Patsy thought she hung up the phone, but she didn't, and you could hear other voices. Have I been calling her Patty this whole time? It's Patsy.
Did we find all 6? Let's count and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
But the problem that I have with this theory is that the unknown DNA. That's the problem I have with this theory, is how, if the Ramseys were protecting Burke and they staged this because he accidentally hit his sister and they thought that he killed her, and then they strangled her, and that's what ultimately ended up killing her, which is probably a hit in the gut when they found that out, which also probably would explain why Patsy always seemed so drugged out in interviews, because she does seem like she's drugged up in these interviews. Is maybe she found out about it and she's like, oh my god, we could have saved her, but we ended up actually killing her and protecting Burke. But I want to know about that unknown DNA. I want to know how the Ramseys would have gotten an unknown DNA and everything. Like, I'm just so curious, because I think that, yes, Burke has something to do with it. I think that theory is most probably accurate. But the problem I have is the DNA one. So they obviously had to have an outsider come in and help them out. They had to have. Because how else would she have gotten unknown DNA unless somebody broke into the basement where her body was after they killed her and messed around with her? But the thing is that after they killed her, how did they get it under her fingernails? It's just really curious, and I don't think that this is a case that's ever actually going to be solved. So I'm really curious as to know what you guys think. What theories do you guys have about Burke the Ramseys, unknown assailant. Like, please just let me know what you guys think down below. Of course, please be respectful. There is a family of this child. Whether they killed her or not, it does not matter. There is a family to this child, and let's not be disrespectful. We're just trying to help them in the best way that we can as internet sleuths and maybe come up with different theories, because it has been so many years. Maybe a fresher set of eyes looking at this case can actually help solve it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell. All that social media, great stuff. I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye, guys.